Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get onto the PowerPoint thing, because one of the things that, like I said earlier, it's not just going and dropping a big heavy weight in any really thick piece of cover that there is. It doesn't work that way. What you're looking for under there is areas that are open. And so this is what we're going to cover right now. This is what mats that we're going to flip. First off, kind of like what I talked about before in just the general grass flipping, is water clarity. You can imagine underneath a mat, and for like the whole rest of what I'm going to talk about today, when I reference a mat, I'm just talking about a matted vegetation. You know, might be whatever kind of grass we're talking about. The mat will just be like a solid piece of vegetation, and we're talking about fishing through it and underneath of it. So, but obviously underneath there, it's dark because it's completely shaded, it's completely covered. So you really don't want to be fishing fishing underneath mats in muddy water, because then it's really, really dark under there, and I just don't like that. So we want some pretty clear water. The location, up here it's really not that bad in Florida. There's matted vegetation everywhere. You want to stay in typically good areas of the lake. Here's the main, very, very main thing. You need it to be open under the canopy. So the canopy, the mat, if you flip your bait in there, and now I'm not talking about the initial fall through the top of it. You might have to shake it a little bit and get it to fall through. But once it falls through, you want to be able to feel that thing free falling all the way to the bottom. If it falls 6 inches and you got to shake it again, it falls a foot and you got to shake it again, that's not open underneath that canopy. That's still really gnarly under there. What you want to be fishing is a canopy that has pretty well open water underneath of it, so this fish can move around and they can ambush stuff. And a lot of times early, like right after the spawn on these lakes up here, right after the spawn, you'll see a lot of big areas of matted grass. Typically, they won't have open canopies underneath of them yet, because all the grass is, if you can picture, a million little stalks growing up, okay? What ends up happening is when the first one of those stalks that gets to the top, it's going to plume out. And this is the beginning of our mat. It's going to plume out. And this stalk over here, he made it to the top and he's pluming out. But what happens is when it plumes out, it's creating shade. So eventually, as those plumes grow together, it's creating a lot of shade. So all those other stalks that were growing in the springtime that didn't get to the top as fast as the other ones, now there's no light. Plants need light through photosynthesis to grow. So the ones that made it to the top and plumed out, they're happy, they're getting light, and their stalk is still alive because they're getting light on the top of their plume. All the rest of them, they're dying off. So once that dies off, you got a lot of open areas with just these single stalks coming up and a big plume, and a single stalk coming up and a big plume, and it's creating a big open area underneath there. Those are the areas as you're going along in these giant, thick areas of grass. Like on Champlain, you look for miles and it's, just grass. There's no way to just look at it and tell if it's open underneath. You got to get your 1 ounce weight, your ounce and a half, you got to go through there, start flipping. But when you start getting to those areas where when it breaks through and it falls down, you can feel it's open under there. That's the areas where you want to, that's where you want to be fishing, because that's where there's a lot of ambush places and stuff under there, and that's where the fish are really going to key on. Bottom composition, most of the time when you're flipping like this up this way, it's going to be later on in the year. So that's not as huge of a concern as it is during the spawn, but just the way the grass grows in the cold weather and stuff up here, that's not really going to be that much of a difference. The types of vegetation up here, really you're only going to be dealing with